Have you ever been fired and had no idea why? Or worse, not realize that your departure would change everything forever? I have. And that's exactly what happened to me today. My name is Jack Carter, 59 years old, and I've spent the last 18 years managing operations at Harper Machinery. I wasn't the type of guy to make speeches or demand attention. I was just the steady hand making sure everything ran smoothly. This company, to me, wasn't just a job, it was a part of my life. I helped build it, from the machinery down to the very systems that kept it functioning. But today, everything I'd built came crashing down. Megan Harper, the daughter of the owner, who I once thought of as a bright young mind, sat across from me with a cold, almost dismissive smile. "We don't need people like you anymore," she said, flipping her hair, as if firing me was a mere formality. No explanation. No reason. Just a decision. And I was out. I didn't argue. I didn't shout. I just stood up, gathered my things, and methodically packed my life into a cardboard box. A pen, a family photo, a few loose papers. All the little things that made up the last 18 years of my life here, now meaningless. There was no anger in me, just a strange emptiness. Like a part of me had been taken, but I couldn't quite place which part. As I walked out of the office, the chill of the outside air hit me. It was a reminder everything had changed. I climbed into my truck, drove out of the parking lot, and headed home. But as I passed the company gates, I noticed something odd. A sleek, black car was parked outside. It didn't belong to anyone I knew at the company. Something about that car made my stomach tighten. It wasn't just a passing thought. I had seen that car before, somewhere. But where? I couldn't shake the feeling as I drove away, that nagging sense that the car, and whatever it was connected to, wasn't just a coincidence. It felt like a sign, something I wasn't meant to ignore. The drive home was a blur. My mind was spinning, trying to make sense of everything. I should have been angry, or at least frustrated, but instead, I felt numb, like I was walking through a fog. The memory of that sleek black car kept drifting in and out of my thoughts. Where had I seen it before? I couldn't place it, but something told me it wasn't just some random coincidence. When I got home, I sat down at the kitchen table, staring at the pile of papers I had brought with me. Among them was my employment contract. I had glanced at it a few times over the years, but it had never seemed important. Not until now. My fingers brushed the paper as I unfolded it, and that's when I saw it, a severance clause. I froze. I had almost forgotten it was there, tucked away like an old secret. The clause stated that if I was terminated without cause, I was entitled to 2 years' worth of salary. 2 years. My pulse quickened. There it was. The lifeline I hadn't expected. The legal safety net that Charles, David Harper, had insisted on putting in place when I was first hired, so I wouldn't be poached by competitors. I wasn't out of options. I could fight this. It was my right, after all. But as much as the thought of that money brought a glimmer of hope, I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't the answer. What would it even mean to win? A check, sure. A little extra cushion for my retirement, but it wouldn't give me back what I'd lost. I had given this company everything, decades of my life, my knowledge, and my loyalty. And now it was all gone. No amount of money could replace that. Not the years spent training the people who now avoided me, not the machines I had carefully maintained, or the systems I had built. It all felt temporary now, like it could be torn down in an instant, just as easily as I had been tossed out. The weight of that realization sank in, but I couldn't linger in it. I had work to do. I had to make a decision. As I leaned back in my chair, my mind drifted again. The image of that black car flickered at the edge of my thoughts, like an unanswered question. It was still there, unresolved. Why did it bother me so much? I grabbed my phone, dialed the number for my lawyer, Ethan Klein. Maybe he could make sense of this mess, and maybe we could figure out how to move forward. As the phone rang, I couldn't shake the feeling that the car, and whatever it was tied to, was part of something bigger. Something I needed to uncover. The phone rang 3 times before Ethan Klein's voice finally came through the line. "Jack, what's going on?" His tone was calm, measured, the kind of professional reassurance I needed right now. "I was let go today," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Megan Harper fired me." "No reason." "Nothing. Just, done." There was a brief silence on the other end of the line before Ethan spoke again. "And the contract?" I flipped the paper over, scanning the severance clause once more. "I've got a severance clause. 2 years' salary if I'm terminated without cause. It's airtight." "That's good," Ethan said, sounding relieved. "We'll have a strong case. I'll get started on it right away." I felt a small flicker of hope. Ethan had been my lawyer for years, and if anyone could help me navigate this, it was him. But as I hung up the phone, a nagging thought lingered in the back of my mind. This wasn't just about the money. Not anymore. Something felt off about all of this. The next few days were a blur of phone calls, legal jargon, and endless paperwork. But amid the chaos, I couldn't shake the feeling that the rug had been pulled out from under me for more than just the obvious reason. Megan's actions had been calculated, cold. Too calculated. I had worked for this company for nearly 2 decades. I had helped build it from the ground up, and now, just like that, I was out. I began reaching out to former colleagues, people I trusted, people who'd been with the company for years. The ones who, like me, had clauses in their contracts protecting them from unfair dismissal. Thomas, the head engineer, was the first to answer. His voice sounded tired, weighed down by the same uncertainty I felt. "I just heard. They let me go too. Just like you, no reason, no warning. 1 minute I'm running the engineering team, the next, I'm packing up my desk." I wasn't surprised, but hearing it confirmed made my stomach churn. I moved on to Jennifer, who ran the quality control lab. She too had been fired, and she sounded just as confused and hurt as Thomas had. "What's going on, Jack?" she asked, her voice trembling. "We all have the same protection in our contracts. How could they just throw us out like this?" Something wasn't adding up. I had worked with these people for years, taught them, trained them, trusted them. They were all good at their jobs, but now, just like that, they were all being tossed aside. It wasn't about performance. It couldn't be. Something deeper was at play. The more I thought about it, the more I realized, Megan hadn't just been eager to take over. She'd been systematic. The firings, the sudden changes in direction, it all felt like she was clearing the deck for something bigger. But what? And why now? It wasn't just my job I had lost. I had lost something more fundamental, the feeling that I was part of something meaningful. Now, I felt like an outsider looking in, at a company that I no longer recognized. I couldn't shake the sense that there was more to this. More than just bad management or corporate politics. Someone, or something, was pulling the strings behind the scenes, and I needed to figure out who. The nagging feeling I had the other day, about the black car, it wasn't going away. It was all connected. Somehow, I just knew it. I picked up the phone again, dialing Harold, my lawyer friend, who had been helping me on the side for years. "We need to talk," I said, the tension in my voice evident. "I think I'm missing something here." As the days passed, I couldn't stop thinking about the calls with Thomas, Jennifer, and the others. It wasn't just about the money anymore. Sure, the severance would be a nice cushion, but that wasn't why I was still awake at night. I had spent nearly 2 decades of my life at Harper Machinery, and in the end, it felt like I was nothing more than a cog in a machine that didn't care whether I existed or not. That was when I decided. I couldn't just sit back and take the payout. I couldn't let it end like this. Not after everything I had poured into that company. I needed to do something bigger, not just for myself, but for the people who had been left behind too. I began reaching out to my former colleagues, the ones who were still reeling from the sudden layoffs, offering help where I could. Some were skeptical. Some were grateful. But the truth was, no one knew where to go next. It felt like the rug had been pulled from under us all at once, and no one was ready to make the leap forward. Then, one morning, as I sat at my kitchen table, the phone rang. It was Douglas Klein. I'd known him for years, a solid businessman who ran a precision parts company across town. He had always been in touch, but this time, his voice had a sense of urgency. "Jack," he said, "I need someone to run operations at my new venture, Cornerstone Precision. We're starting up a division focused on hydraulic components. It's small for now, but we're building something solid. I could really use a man like you." It was the offer I hadn't expected, but the one I needed. This wasn't just a job, it was a chance to rebuild. A chance to take everything I had learned and use it to create something from scratch, something that honored the work I had done at Harper, but also something new, something that wouldn't collapse under the weight of greed and mismanagement. I accepted the offer without hesitation. Douglas, William Baldwin, and Rachel Simmons, both experienced veterans in the industry, joined me. Together, we founded Cornerstone Precision. It wasn't just a business venture. It was our statement. It was the chance to do things the right way, to build a company on respect, experience, and a sense of purpose. As the first few weeks passed, I realized that my vision wasn't just about getting back at Megan or Harper Machinery. It was bigger than that. I wasn't just fighting for compensation, I was fighting for something meaningful. Something that would last. "I can't just sit back and take the payout," I said to Rachel one night, as we were reviewing some of our early designs. "This isn't about money. It's about building something that will stand the test of time, something that can't be destroyed by quick gains and empty promises." But I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that Megan wouldn't just walk away quietly. She had already shown how ruthless she could be. And I knew, deep down, that this wouldn't be the last time I would cross paths with her. This was just the beginning. While I was busy building Cornerstone Precision, Harper Machinery was slowly crumbling. I kept hearing whispers from the few remaining employees I still stayed in touch with. They were trying to hold things together, but it was becoming clear, Megan's decisions were causing irreparable damage. Contracts were being lost, production quality had plummeted, and clients were starting to back out. The company that had once been a powerhouse was now struggling to stay afloat, and Megan didn't seem to care. I'd seen this coming. Megan had always been about quick fixes, short-term gains, superficial changes. She didn't understand that the company's strength had been built on years of careful planning, trust, and the kind of hands-on management that had kept it steady for decades. But Megan was too focused on her vision of modernizing everything. Now, everything was falling apart. I was just starting to feel like we were making real progress at Cornerstone when I got an unexpected call. It was from one of the board members at Harper Machinery. "Jack," the voice on the other end said, "Megan is in over her head. She's starting to lose clients by the day, and the board is getting nervous. They've asked for your help." I wasn't surprised. It was only a matter of time before the board realized what a mess Megan had made. But what they didn't know was that I wasn't the same man who had left Harper. I was no longer the loyal employee willing to clean up her mess. A few days later, I found myself walking into a boardroom I had once known so well. Megan was sitting at the head of the table, flanked by her new team, young, eager, and completely out of touch with the reality of running a business that had been built over decades. She didn't look at me when I entered. Her eyes were fixed on a stack of papers, as if I was just another problem to deal with. But I could feel her frustration radiating off her. This wasn't going how she'd expected. "Jack," she said coldly, finally acknowledging my presence. "I'm sure you're here to remind me how much you did for this company. But I don't need your help anymore. Harper Machinery is mine now, and I will run it my way." I leaned forward, my voice steady. "You've made mistakes, Megan. The company is bleeding clients, and the quality of the product is slipping. You're losing everything your father built, and you're too proud to admit it. Her face flushed with anger, but she quickly masked it. That's your opinion. You've been fired. You don't belong here anymore. I stood up, not backing down. You can't keep running this company into the ground. You're just like every other CEO who thinks they know better, but ends up destroying what was good. You want to talk about the future. You're so caught up in your modernization that you've forgotten about the people who built this place. People like me, like Thomas, Jennifer, the ones who've put in the years to make Harper Machinery what it was. Megan's eyes narrowed, her voice growing sharp. You're out of line, Jack. You'll never work in this industry again if you keep undermining me. You think Douglas Klein is going to back you up? No one will touch you if you continue attacking my family. Her words hung in the air, a threat masked in arrogance. But I wasn't afraid anymore. I had nothing to lose, and I wasn't about to let her bully me into silence. You can threaten me all you want, I said, my voice calm but firm. But I've lived long enough to know that respect for those who built something is more important than whatever new direction you think you're taking. And I'll fight to protect that. This isn't about you or me, it's about the legacy of this company. And no one, not even you, can erase that. She stood up abruptly, her face pale with rage. You don't know what you're dealing with, Jack. I'll make sure you regret this. But I was already turning to leave, my mind focused on what was next. The battle wasn't over, and I knew Megan wasn't going to back down. But I was ready. Ready to rebuild what was broken and to protect the people who deserved better than the wreckage she was leaving behind. It had been a week since my confrontation with Megan. Cornerstone Precision was moving forward, slowly but steadily. I had Douglas and the team behind me, and despite everything, we were carving out a place for ourselves in the industry. But just as I thought I had everything under control, the phone call came, one that would change everything. It was David Harper, and his voice sounded different. He was never one for small talk, but this time, there was a noticeable tension in his words. Jack, I need to talk to you. Something's been going on with Megan, and it's worse than I thought. I leaned back in my chair, my curiosity piqued. What do you mean? What's happening? David let out a long breath before continuing. She's selling off the company's assets, pieces of Harper Machinery, things that meant something, like the specialized machinery we used for custom hydraulic parts. But that's not all. She's been quietly buying up stock in some of our key partners. Cornerstone Precision is on her radar now. I felt the air leave my lungs. Megan had been buying up shares in our partners. She wasn't just running Harper into the ground, she was trying to take Cornerstone down with it. Why would she do that? I asked, though I already had an inkling of the answer. David's voice dropped lower, more grave. She wants control. She's not satisfied with just Harper anymore. She's playing a long game, Jack. If she can control both companies, she'll have everything she needs. It's not just about money for her. It's about power. She's trying to dismantle everything we built. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. Megan wasn't just after a quick fix or a payday. She was trying to control both companies, Harper Machinery and Cornerstone Precision, by any means necessary. I could hardly believe what I was hearing. How far had she gone? How deep had her manipulation run? She had played me, played all of us. But this was a betrayal I hadn't seen coming. I can't believe it, I muttered, more to myself than to David. She's not just trying to steal from Harper, she's trying to take everything I've built with Cornerstone, too. David's voice faltered. I never thought it would come to this, Jack. But she's always been ruthless, and now she's taken it to a new level. She won't stop until she has control of everything. I sat there for a moment, processing what David had just told me. The weight of it hit me like a ton of bricks. Everything I had done, everything I had worked for, suddenly felt insignificant. All my efforts to rebuild Cornerstone, all the hours spent making sure we were stable and growing, it all seemed meaningless now. Megan had set her sights on something far more dangerous than simple business rivalry. This was a game of power, and we were nothing but pawns. I stared at my phone after the call ended, a sick feeling settling in my stomach. What had I gotten myself into? Was it even possible to fight someone like Megan? She wasn't just taking a shot at Cornerstone. She was pulling the strings, manipulating everything from behind the scenes. And if I wasn't careful, I could end up with nothing. But I wasn't about to give up. Not now. Not when everything was on the line. No matter what she did next, I was ready. Because this wasn't just about business anymore. It was about survival. And I would fight for Cornerstone with everything I had. The months following my discovery of Megan's scheme were a whirlwind of decisions, actions, and consequences. I didn't back down. I couldn't. Cornerstone Precision was my life now, and it was time to fight for it. I knew what had to be done. I called in every favor I had, every person I trusted, and together, we executed a plan. We moved quickly, acquiring Harper Machinery's hydraulic division, the very department Megan had neglected and let fall apart. It wasn't just about business. This was about sending a message. We weren't just trying to survive in a broken industry. We were building something that could stand the test of time. Cornerstone started to gain real traction, not just with clients, but within the industry. Our partnerships flourished, and our products, once competing with giants, now stood on their own. We respected the work that had been done before us, but we also saw the potential to make something greater. We created an environment that valued both innovation and experience, a balance that I had always believed in but had never seen truly respected at Harper. And then, one morning, during a crucial board meeting, I had the chance to announce something big. Our latest contract with a major manufacturer had just been finalized, and our numbers for the last quarter had exceeded expectations by nearly 30%. For the first time since I had left Harper, I finally felt the weight of success, real success, not built on power or deceit, but on hard work, integrity, and teamwork. The room erupted in applause, and for a moment, I let myself feel the satisfaction of what we had accomplished. But as the applause died down, my mind wandered. I remembered those early days at Harper, the late nights, the struggles, and the victories we had all shared. I thought about the people I had trained, the machines I had cared for, the foundation that had once made everything seem possible. But those days were gone. It wasn't just the money or the victory that mattered anymore. What I had learned, what I had to learn the hard way, was that success wasn't just about achieving a goal. It was about knowing how to rebuild after losing everything. It was about rising after a fall, respecting what had been built before you, and knowing that the journey, no matter how difficult, would always be worth it in the end. As I stood there, looking at the team that had helped make Cornerstone what it was, I realized that what we had created wasn't just a company, it was a testament to resilience, to never giving up, no matter how high the stakes. Sometimes, I said, my voice steady but full of emotion, life isn't about winning or losing. It's about standing up after you fall, rebuilding, and respecting what was created before you decided to build something new. And in that moment, I knew the true victory had nothing to do with the profits, the contracts, or even the battle with Megan. It had everything to do with the people around me, and the lessons we had all learned along the way.